Right, good afternoon, everybody. I'm just going to let some more people flow into it. We've just put you guys live, obviously, on it. So I'm going to give it a 30 seconds or so before we really get going. So I can just start to see the numbers ticking up on the participants, and it just takes a moment sometimes to get everybody into the session. But if you've been here with us before, you might be new, or you've obviously seen many of these over the years. My name is John Myers, and welcome to the next in the series of the Deep Crawl webinars. I've hosted these for many years now, and I always love getting great topics on board and great speakers to talk to you today. And again, we've gone out there, we've found what we think is topical, we're thinking about the right times of year, and we've got a great subject and a great speaker for you today as well. So today we're going to be talking about how to improve your tech SEO to boost your revenue this holiday season. So it's a massive mouthful, but it is a massive topic as well. It's a huge topic that if you haven't kind of thought about it, you really need to start thinking about this. I'm going to say we've got a fantastic presenter. We've got Mr. Matt Lawler, who's the Director of SEO Strategy at InServe Interactive. Good morning to you, Matt, on the other side of the world, and thank you for being here with us today.
Yeah, good morning, John. Happy to be here. Really appreciate the opportunity, and I appreciate everybody taking time out of their day to listen to me talk.
Well, yeah, I appreciate you getting out of bed. For anybody that's obviously not got the context, Matt's 8 hours behind us. So it's 8 o'clock in the morning in the US right now for Matt. Matt's got 3 hours from a plane flight that he's taking to San Diego as well. So he really is taking the time to come and do this for us. And for everybody that's in the UK and obviously across Europe, it's into our afternoon. So we're all over the world, as we always are. And obviously, if you've been with us before, we're going to be following the same usual sorts of formats. About 25 minutes of presentation followed by Q&A. Please do submit your questions. I mean, we've got a great topic here and there's some great content, and I'm sure we're going to drive a load of questions from it, but don't wait till the end. As you start to see the things that you'd like to hear more about, go to the Q&A box that's at the bottom of the screen, pop your question in there, and I'll make sure that we get them answered by Matt and as we get into the Q&A after the presentation in the next 25 minutes. Obviously, as always, this session is recorded, so there will be a full write-up and obviously a recording of this session on the DC blog as of tomorrow, as there normally is for you guys that have been with us before. If not, obviously wait, get the email, check it out, re-listen back to all the nuggets of information that we're going to give you, and obviously all of the bits and bobs that we'll write up in that as well. We do love feedback on these Deep Crawl webinars too. So please, at the end of this, when you click out, a little box is going to ask you for some feedback. It's 15 seconds of your time. Please just take the chance just to actually give us that feedback, because we want to know what you want to hear about. You know, we've got this run up, as we're talking about this one, we've got the run up to the holiday season. There might be something else that you'd like to hear about, or a certain technical SEO train that you'd like to go down, or a link building, or whatever it might be. Just give us a shout and let us know what you think. Suggest some speakers and we'll get there and get those things done for you. This really, as I say, is such a key SEO discipline, and going into the holiday season, and now I really do think it is time to start making those plans. Some people would even say it's maybe a little bit late to start making those plans for the holiday season. So I think listen in and make sure that any of these things that come out today is get yourself primed, get the site in order, and get ready for one of the biggest times of the year for an SEO company, and obviously for an SEO brand that's going to go out there into the marketplace today. As always, I'm really looking forward to this one. I think the content's great, Matt. I think you've really put together some great nuggets, and I'm really looking forward to getting into the Q&A after we finish your presentation in about 25 minutes time. So my last thing is to say to you guys before I go on mute, get those questions ready and please submit them as we go, because I'm sure there's going to be some. And now over to Matt Lawler, Director of SEO Strategy at InServe Interactive, to take you through how to boost your SEO revenue this holiday season. The floor is yours, sir. Off you go.
All right, thanks, John. Yeah, hi everybody. Like John said, my name is Matt Lawler, and I'm the Director of SEO Strategy at InServe Interactive. I've been in the agency space for about 8 years now, roughly, and I'm based in Phoenix, Arizona, in case anybody's interested in knowing that. I've been in SEO almost all of the entire time that I've been in the agency world, with a brief stint in account management actually as well. And I feel sorry for those people, but we'll go ahead and get started. So what we're going to cover today, basically what I want to look at is what should we expect for the 2021 holiday season. Obviously there's a lot going on in the world. Everybody thought we were going to be free again, and then the nasty virus is raised its head again. So like, what is going to happen? There's a lot of uncertainty there. We're going to talk about it. The role of SEO in the holiday strategy. It's obviously kind of niche in this regard, as opposed to where a lot of the big budgets are going to Facebook and Google, and sort of like blasting the promotions out. How to prepare your website. In my opinion, there's really quite a bit to do ahead of in order to be ready when the holidays start with your website ranking where you want it to be. Like really quickly here, things have got to start moving. We're going to talk about that. And then optimizing for holiday shoppers, like just what are they expecting, what are they looking for, and how can you get the most out of the demand spike that we see here in the next couple of months. About Inceive. Yeah, so the founder of Inceive had worked at, I don't remember the name of the company right now, but he had worked with several different SEO companies throughout his years, and he really felt like there was something missing. Nobody was doing it as well as he wanted it to be done from the client side. And so he had gone ahead and started Inceive Interactive as a link building company initially. From there, it's grown into strategy consulting, and now we're a full service digital marketing agency, 65 employees, very heavily SEO and very heavily based in San Diego, California, but with some remote folks like myself on the team as well. And the link building team is working with around 35, I think, probably a little bit north of that now, closer to 40 clients a month, doing all sorts of exciting things on the authority building and outreach side, across all the different verticals, tactics, everything that you could be doing there. So yeah, that's a little bit about Inceive. I know it's everybody's favorite slide is when the agency talks about themselves and it shows off all their awards and cool clients they've worked with. So you're welcome. One thing I will say I'm really proud of though is this year, if I'm not mistaken, we took home 4 US Search Awards. And so just really proud of the team, what we're doing. Obviously we're getting something right. So really happy about that. And again, John, thanks for having us. It's exciting to be here working with DeepCrawl. On that note, that's it. No, okay. On that note, we'll go ahead and jump into the content here. So, according to eMarketer, now we had done quite a bit of research to try and get an idea of how to project out what is holiday season 2021 going to look like. We found there's a report from eMarketer that had detailed it in the most, I guess, like fact and data based like methodology out of anywhere. There's a lot of speculation, a lot of just it could do this or it could be that. And so based on the consumer shopping trends throughout the year and projecting that out into the holidays based on the demand increase in previous years and things like that, we are thinking around an 11% increase in US holiday sales versus last year. About a 2% increase in holiday retails overall. So obviously e-commerce is growing significantly faster than shopping in the store. I think I might be one of the only people that still like has to go in the store to buy things. Like I have a really tough time sometimes actually buying things online, but that doesn't seem to be the case. The Amazon truck is here in the cul-de-sac every day, dropping things off for people. And then e-commerce will account for almost 20% of the holiday retail sales is the estimate here as well. So obviously that's going to be a huge chunk of it, especially when we look at, there's a slide coming up that talks about just the volume of, what the US spends in, or I'm pretty sure it's US based, what the US spends on the holidays. Like, it's exciting. That time of year is coming quicker than we think. And so, the other thing is as far, sorry, I lost my train of thought there, but omni-channel shopping experiences is something that we have to be thinking about this year. Customers expect it to be seamless, whether it's in store or on their mobile device or on their computer. I mean, nowadays, even if you go into the hardware store and ask the employee where something is, they just open the company's app and search it, and it tells you what row it's in and everything like that. And so those types of, I guess, just like seamless and uniform experiences are what people are expecting these days. Anything that feels like it's 2021, it should be better than this, it's going to be very put off, like a very big put off for potential customers for you. So just, I know at this point, you know, you've probably done just about everything you can on the technology side going into the holidays. But just something to think about, you know, putting the customer first these days, what that looks like is a big focus on personalization, customization, and a quick purchase and delivery process. That last one I know is big. I know for a fact that my wife won't order anything on Amazon if it won't be here in 2 days. That's like her hard, you know, limit. You know, so that's a real thing. And so whatever we can do to optimize the logistics of getting products to customers is going to help the business out. And ultimately, I know we're here to talk about SEO. The SEO is only going to be able to carry you so far as the customer experience lets it, right? So you can get people to the site, but you know, if once they get there, it's clunky, it's not going to be here for like 8 to 10 business days, like a year in shipping time these days. Like those types of things can present some real challenges on the conversion rate side. In 2020 or in 2021, there have been 900 million more digital buyers than were last year, 4.4% increase. So again, just when we're looking at kind of what does that mean for the holidays? Yes, people are going to be going in locations, but more and more people are shopping on their phones, and the mobile device is just more important than ever, I think. Google's obviously indexing on a mobile first basis. And it still surprises me how many clients I've worked with over the years that build a new website and through the entire process from staging the whole thing, never put up on their cell phone. It's really, you know, if you're thinking it's a mobile first index, you know, everything that you're doing should be from the lens or the perspective of it being built for the phone. More than half of your sessions in most business cases are coming from a mobile device. And so it's, yeah, just something to continue. I think probably anytime you come to a webinar like this, somebody harps on you about how important it is to be mobile optimized and mobile ready. But I'm just going to pile on there because I can't say enough about its importance. So this is digital buyers in billions per year, obviously with a bit of projection there on the 2021 side, but I mean it's just up and to the right. Like it's the only way to say it's stark and immediately apparent that people like shopping on their mobile devices, their tablets, their computers, and even in some cases they do all the research there and they'll even add something to their cart and they'll decide to go into the store and buy it. That in-store purchase never would have happened if they didn't have the customer experience that they did on the digital side. So just something to think about. And this is where the world's going. It's been going there for a long time, and it should just remain a focus for all of us. Cool. So how's SEO playing to all this, right? What's the role of SEO? I mean, obviously, I think like the biggest thing there is that ranking high on the SERP, which stands for search engine results page. I'm sure everybody knows that, but I'm just gonna throw it out there because marketers use a lot of jargon. Will help retailers capitalize on e-commerce sales, right? So everything that is part of a typical e-commerce strategy around promotion and maybe running ads basically is great, but that organic position gets a different level of trust with the customer than an ad ever will. And when they're both present on the same page at the same time, we've seen conversion rates more than double. So if you have a paid search ad and you're ranking first organically, just the amount of trust signals you're receiving as soon as they're finishing that search, the decision's been made for them on where they're going to spend their money. Yeah, and be prepared. I think SERP volatility is something that we should just like live prepared for these days. There was the big core algorithm update around core web vitals obviously rolled out earlier this year. Across our entire client base, I think every client I've looked at, we have seen big spikes and we've seen drops and declines and sort of like anomalies that aren't necessarily seasonal in their traffic patterns, especially this year, as it seems that Google's really trying to fine tune that algorithm. And I don't see that slowing down anytime soon. So, just because you aren't on the first page for something that you'd like to be right now, don't count yourself out. There's still time to do it. And Google's still shuffling things around every day as far as the rankings are concerned. And if you are in the first spot right now, don't rest on your laurels either. I'm sure that's something you've already learned this year and last as well. But there's just a lot going on with that algorithm itself and all the information it's trying to process. And we're seeing some really big fluctuations in rankings, which leads to traffic kind of being all over the place as well. And then, yeah, with the last thing on this slide, with an increase in digital sales, I'd already mentioned the importance of kind of organic and paid search working together. I always like the idea of it just being a search strategy, and there's some keywords we work for and some keywords we buy. But all in all, it's a search strategy. You're targeting the customer who's typing in a keyword, and there's certain places that you need to be. So the more that we can integrate those teams and share that information with each other, the better off we all are. I think I was at MozCon a few years ago, probably 2017. Will Reynolds did a whole thing about how he was spinning the paid search keyword data into his keyword research when he was doing that on the front end before optimizing the site. And he like really drilled into me how awesome it is to have conversion data in the column right next to search volume, the number of conversions or the conversion rate. I mean, that's all of a sudden you're looking at the keywords differently. And that's the information that paid search can provide you. So yeah, the more that you can work together in that area, the better off you'll be. Looking at retail categories that are, it says rising in popularity. I hate reading from the slide, but it's so well put. But basically, when there is shifts in the customer demand, where maybe it was loafers a few years ago, and they're calling them, I don't know another word for loafers, but if you're a shoe company and there are categories that customers are more excited about than they were last year, now's the time to see if you can get any more inventory there. If you have a category page for something that you know is very popular, then it would be a great time to get some more product on there, as well as building the page out some more. The two things are important together because if you have a sneaker page on your website that suggests you have all these sneakers, someone clicks it and there's just one pair of shoes, they might be disappointed, and that's not going to be the user experience we're going for, like we've been talking about. The next big thing here, and again, I'm a huge proponent of marketing channels working together as much as they can. I think it's the amount of information that can be shared. It's like so much more than I ever realized, especially when I stayed in my own little bubble. So the more information that you can get from whether it is the paid search team about like what keywords are doing well, what aren't, or customer data from the programmatic team that are telling you that these, I don't think they call them personas anymore. These like demographics are performing better than others. Like we can cater our content to that. We can do a lot of things to increase our likelihood of winning a purchase when those people end up on the website. And then do the same thing in reverse. As an SEO, make sure that you're sharing your information. I've always said, I've been in SEO for years, but I've always said that SEOs do more research than any of the other channels. I don't know if it's true, but I feel like it is. And so we have all this information about keywords, about content, about our editors, about how websites work and run. That there's so much there that can be shared for the betterment of all the other campaigns that are running. So yeah, I guess I'll get off my soapbox about that. But yeah, if you don't take anything else away, Matt loves the integration of these marketing teams. Cool. So what can you do, right? What do you need to do now if you want to be ready for the holidays? Well, I Googled it, and there's 93 days from right now until Black Friday, which John told me is 120 days to Christmas, roughly. So things are right around the corner. The first thing from my perspective, our company's perspective, like no matter if this has been done in the past, it was done earlier this year, it was done last year, having a fresh set of eyes do a thorough website review or a thorough audit to find anything that isn't working right, now is the time to do that. If there is an issue with anything on the back end, we had a client recently that had changed their product listing pages, as an example, to their server-side React now. And in the days following that change, none of their product pages were indexed because Google couldn't read them. Like those types of things could really hurt you if you're hoping to have a big holiday season. So let's, get under the hood, find anything that isn't working exactly perfectly, and make sure that, especially from a content keyword and a technical standpoint, that everything is sound there. We're not building a house on sand. That's the first step from our point of view. The next thing, optimizing for mobile. I'm going to talk about this again a bit more, but over half of digital Christmas revenue came from smartphones last year, which I have to tell you, that's obviously a lot. And the fact that over half, and then again, I mentioned it earlier, but on most of my client sites, I'm seeing it around 55 to 60% of the traffic's coming from mobile. If you haven't taken the time to do it recently, I would advise you to download your company's app and go on your company's website on your mobile phone, register for an account, even if you already have one, and see what it's like. Is there anything in here that we don't know is actually kind of a huge pain? Like for example, if you have a field that's asking for a phone number, it's really nice when the iPhone comes up with just the numbers on the screen instead of having to use the to go to the numbers across the top of the symbols. So if you can designate that as a phone number, as a field that's collecting phone numbers for the sake of the smartphone, it makes everything a lot easier for everybody. And then also autofill compatible, which people love. Expect an increase in social media sales this year. So I think this does come from the trend. I guess the buyers that we're looking at this year they've grown up on digital, and they are not afraid of making a purchase because an influencer on Instagram said it was a good idea. We see that quite a bit. I think about an Apple Watch band a few weeks ago from some company that advertised me on Instagram. I'd never even heard of them. And it worked, and it worked really quickly. So I guess I don't have a ton to say about that other than that social media, we do expect to be a big driver. And SEO can play a role in that by being well optimized, so that if somebody goes back and can't remember the name of that company, but they did have this product, and I remember the name of that product, as if your product's wrapped in Schema, it has an indexable and crawlable product listing page, then they can find you. It's a great way to support the social media team from the SEO side, one of many. And then monitoring the technical aspects of your site with an amazing, top-notch technical SEO solution like Deep Crawl. It is something that makes sense for everybody. in my perspective, most of the time, technical SEO problems can go unnoticed for way too long, because it's very easy to see when something's not right on the front end. Is when your keyword's no longer ranking in the first position, you see that, or when if something's not rendering right on the page, you see it. But if a bunch of soft redirects had popped up, or there's some query parameter in your URL string that's just spinning up duplicate content all over the place, you may never know unless you are actively monitoring what's going on the technical side of your website and making sure that it continues to be great once you get it fixed. Another thing that I always notice is a lot of times with technical SEO, whether it is redirects or whatever it might be, we'll see that the rules written on the back end of the website, for example, right, the redirects is temporary by default, but we know that permanent redirects are preferred by Google. And so like every couple of months, I see teams updating all of the temporary redirects on their website. Instead of, I guess, getting the boat out of the water and patching that hole, like it feels like a lot of people are just kind of, as they hear about it, as they see it, just kind of scooping it out with a bucket. I don't think that's a great way of going about it. So that's why I think making sure that you're on top of every factor of technical SEO on the back end that you can be, and that you just understand what it is, if it's a problem, and are keeping an eye on whether or not it's happening at an increasing rate. Like at least that, for a lot of things, like whether it's pagination, which can be a huge issue, like I said, duplicate content, anything like that. If you spend a bunch of time putting together a schema markup project for all of your products or your location pages, and you don't even realize that they're throwing an error in Search Console and Google can't read them, that's not going to be, you're not going to get what you were hoping for out of the project. So definitely spend some time between now and the holidays keeping an eye on everything that you can on that back end. Oh, cool. Yeah, I talked about this a little bit earlier before, but and it's funny because it is an SEO play, but it's obviously more than that. Customer experience plays a big role in this, and as well as, I guess, fulfillment and a lot of other things. But where you can, make sure that thin category pages, if you have categories of products that you only carry 1 or 2 products for, if you can get any additional SKUs between now and the holidays, it's going to help your SEO by beefing up that category page, making it more likely to rank and helping you get those sales. The same thing basically here with SKUs for the products that have multiple variants. So if you are selling shoes and you have a black shoe, a red shoe, and a green shoe, get separate SKUs up for them, give them each a page on that link on that category page, and get that thing beefed up so that, again, you have a better likelihood of winning that ranking. And where it makes sense, think about creating new category pages. That may be that your category pages were set up a few years ago, and that there are new and I guess more trendy ways that you could be categorizing your products. Look into that, and if it's an opportunity, absolutely pursue it, but pursue it soon, because you're setting up a new page. It's got to get crawled, it's got to get indexed, it's got to start ranking, it's got to get authority, and we've got 93 days till Black Friday. So we need to be moving on that as quickly as we can. I think that's the last one here, but improving the overall merchandising process, adding products to additional pages where relevant, suggested product sections. I love the customer always bought, scroll at the bottom of a lot of websites. I almost always find something that's like, oh, I do need that too. So where you can, make sure that you're giving customers another opportunity to buy at every turn, I think is where that goes. Schema markup's huge. I think it's another, I mentioned it before, but on the technical SEO side, like making sure that whatever schema markup is available for your business is implemented is going to help Google out a lot. And for anybody who's not familiar with schema markup, I don't, probably everybody is, but just in case you aren't, what it actually is it was put together as a project where Bing, Yahoo, and Google were all working together on a standardized, I guess, like packet of information that you could put on a web page that that told the crawler what your web page is about. And so an example that I was told was that the schema markup on a page where the title is Avatar could tell the search engines that it's talking about the movie by James Cameron and not the icon on somebody's social media profile. So that's obviously very important to give that context to the crawlers. We talked about this already. Clicking, I get all excited and click. Be prepared to make adjustments based on changing circumstances. There's a lot of unknowns around this holiday season. There is an outside chance we're not even going to be allowed in stores. Be ready to be flexible, and I think where possible, have a backup plan, and just that's all I can say about it. It's just there is a lot of unknowns, and we can't say this is the strategy, it's set in stone. Something comes up and we're going to just keep rolling with it. Just be ready to adapt as necessary. We've already talked about the omni-channel shoppers experience as well. And then also again on the paid search and SEO side. So yeah, kind of just reiterating some points there that we'd already talked about. Super important to make sure the customer has an amazing experience no matter where they are finding your business, and that your marketing teams are working together. This is the last slide of like things that you can do to get ready for this. Improve internal linking, especially for links from your blog, your homepage, or whatever other pages exist on your site to the products and category pages, because those are our money makers. It's very difficult sometimes to get external links to product and category pages. But if you do have anything that works as a link magnet, like an awesome resource or a free tool, it may make sense to find a way to link from your page to your product pages and let some of that link juice flow over there. Conduct a link building campaign for page level authority. I mean, this is something that is an absolutely phenomenal idea. Something I think everybody should be doing. But if you wanted to help this year, it'd have to start pretty quickly. Just because the turnaround on a link building engagement, it's like, if it takes us a little while to get a link, and then Google has to find that link, crawl that link back to our website, like index it, put it all through the thing, it takes a while. So I think link building is important, but it's something you need to start on, right away. It would make sense to go ahead and put up your Christmas sale page, at least the URL. And even if it says like sale details coming soon or something like that, but give people a place to link to, start getting that authority going if you can. And then redirects and canonicals. So, just out of stock variants and last year's holiday pages, anything that could be floating around as duplicate content in the back end. Let's make sure that we're telling Google where it goes and basically how it should be set up. Cool, uncertainties. Yeah, there's a bunch of those. I managed not to mention the big one. I think we've all heard enough about it. But the economic forecast is like, it depends on, it's shakier than the weather. It depends on who you're listening to that day or what radio station it's on. We are seeing inventory shortages, obviously. I went by the Ford dealership the other day. The guy had 2 used cars on this giant Ford dealership lot because of that chip shortage. Shipping delays, probably still caused by that ship that got sideways in the canal in Egypt, because that was crazy. And then, staffing and job security, small business closure. And then you got to deal with Amazon on top of that. You know, there's a lot of uncertainty there. But if it's done well, you know, these are some of the ways that you would measure how well the holidays have gone for you. And it's a good idea to get benchmarks on this if you haven't in the past, so that next year you can come back to something and say, you know, this is how we did it last year, and here's how we did this year. And what were the differences? Did we start sooner? Did we start later? Were we more aggressive? Things like that. But obviously, we want to be looking at year-over-year sales, time on site, you know, the user experience metrics, click-through rate, conversion rate, rankings. Like, you know, just the I think really the standard sort of SEO metrics. But with the point that I think it's a good idea to document what happens this year somewhere where you can come back to it next year and sort of compare apples to apples. Brief recap. We expect to see sales up from last year, largely driven by e-commerce. In order to take advantage of the spike in demand, SEO work needs to begin immediately. There's so much to do in 93 days. Early indexation of any new pages like holiday sales, new pages, categories, etc., will set you up for success, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done to figure out which of those pages need to be built. And so again, the sooner you can get started, the better. And it's as important as ever to focus on the customer experience. But you've got to remember that Google is seeing everything on the mobile index as well. So kind of both of those things in mind. The customer is going more mobile, but you know, they're not entirely there yet. Google sort of is, but really putting a lot of emphasis on making sure it's totally dialed in on that front. Q&A slide.
Great, thank you, Matt. Fantastic talk through. Loads of useful information in there. So if you guys have got any questions that are burning about that, but I know I've got a few kind of thing, but I want to open up with a few questions and just thank you, Sri Tharam, who's just kind of pinged in and just said good presentation. So, you know, really appreciate that, Matt. So already got positive feedback. So always good to see. Obviously, from my point of view, I think what you're talking about there, and I've experienced this as an SEO as well over the years, that there's so many things that can shift and change, is, you know, thinking about things that you can win on quickly and stuff like that. But I think, you know, when you started talking about schema markup, it got me thinking about that, because I think schema is just such a great win. I think it's maybe some people on the session today don't appreciate the ease of implementation of that. So it would be great if you could just give them some top tips on you know, schema markup, how you go about it, you know, the ease of implementation, and are there any tools that you use to, you know, create the code outputs that you then submit obviously to Google to get a Q&A and checked off? It'd just great to hear a little bit more about that, Matt.
Well, sure. Yeah. So schema markup, I'm 100% with you, John. I think way underappreciated. It's an excellent way to give information directly to the search engine's crawler about your products, your services, your location, or really, I mean, there's loads of schemas actually. I think it's schema.org, where you would go to, that actually has like the page level templates that you would go use for implementation. So there's like on schema.org, there's a local business schema that you could basically grab, and you would swap out the address placeholder with your address. You'd swap out the phone number placeholder with your phone number. I've seen that done at scale using things like Microsoft Excel or applications. Like there's one called Schema app that I've seen that works really well for that. And then on the implementation side, there's a lot of different ways that it can be done. I've seen like hard coded, on the head of the page. I've seen it loaded in through your Google Tag Manager instance, actually, which is nice because it keeps it off the page, which is like light. But if it's not the first thing to load from Google Tag Manager, then the Google bot may be gone before it gets there. So you have to be careful with that when looking at sort of any dynamic loading for that type of markup. Does that answer your question, John?
Yeah, it does for sure. I mean, I think it's a really good, I think you make a really good point there about actually sticking in the Google tag is actually, from a load perspective, the bot might have moved on and moved quickly through it. I think for anybody on the call today that's not considered using Schema from a retail point of view. There's so many different ways and markups that you can use. So I would totally get involved with that. I think as well,
every website needs Schema markup. Like every single website can use it, and it will help every single website. I gotta say that I don't think there's a website in the world that should have 0 instances at all. If I'm wrong, go ahead and let me know in the chat.
I wouldn't disagree with you in some respects, Matt. I think it's spot on, because there is so many things that you can use around it. I think as well, when you talked about SKUs, it's always interesting how you can deal with SKUs and different codes and stuff like that. And as you quite rightly say, you need to kind of jump on it. And maybe that's how you go about obviously getting those pages indexed, because things go out of stock, things come into stock. We've just had a question from Rizwan, who said, when do you know it's appropriate to 301 or obviously stick a canonical on a page kind of thing. So getting a feel for the fact that obviously you're going to potentially get lots of duplicate content, sorts of like-minded content. SKUs tend to be product specific. Is there an easy win for it all, or is it just kind of, it's about planning the process, thinking about the structure of the site, as you say, thinking about the category stuff? I'd love to just get a bit more on that view from you, because it kind of ties in with everything you talked about, and I absolutely agree. It's the structure pieces, the internal links piece. How do you make decisions on how you actually shape and direct that traffic?
I think like the most successful way that I've seen it done is to have a version of the product that you're going to call the default. Okay. And for the reason being, like, as if you were implementing hreflang tags, you have an X default at the bottom, which basically what you're saying is that if no language or countries recognized, then this is the default. Be the same thing with my shoe example. If like, I guess where I'm going with it is the best way I've seen it done is to have a separate product page for each color of a shoe, not every size, that's annoying, but each color, and then have them all canonical back to whichever one you've identified as the default. And in my opinion, you 301 redirect if you're never going to get the product again. If you are going to get the product again, leave it up, put a little form on there that says notify me when it's back in stock, collect some emails, and save the equity.
Yeah, it's such a good win. That's a real top tip. I mean, you'd be surprised how many retailers I've seen that, as you say, don't put that form on, kind of like saying it, they just say it's out of stock, it's gone. When is it coming back? It's never coming back. It might be coming back. I don't know. Let me know. I think the amount of retailers that miss out on that is insane. I think that's a huge tip there, kind of thing. Sarisram's just asking again, kind of thing as well. What sort of platform would you suggest for a website? I mean, do you have a personal preference of what you would want to see a retailer working, server environment wise, coding environment wise? Right. I think everybody has different views. It's always just good to hear a view from clearly somebody who's dealt with a lot of retail customers.
Yeah, I got to say, there was a time about a year and a half ago, I was working with this fairly large, I'll say huge, it was a big e-commerce client that was in the process of replatforming, and going through that, they'd asked the agency I was with at the time for a perspective. And so instead of like assigning it to one guy to get a perspective, we had like 12 different SEOs do their own research and come with their own recommendation. And what was really interesting about it to me was, out of the 12, I think 8 of them came back and said big commerce is going to be the best for this. I don't remember exactly why. I don't know if that's still the case, but when 12 different SEOs in my agency each looked into the best e-commerce platform, for somebody who's dealing with large scales, big commerce was the one that everybody sort of agreed on. So if it was me, I'd start there.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, it's everybody has their view and everybody has their different way of thinking about these things. I mean, we're running out of time, so I just want to ask one more question, because I think one thing that you really hit on, and I've seen that Will Reynolds talk as well, and I know Will really well, and I've seen him talk about those stuff. So I've been an old SEO guy at heart and been someone that's done a lot of paid search. I couldn't agree more with him. I think it's really interesting that when you think about that SEO and PPC working together piece, I'd love you just to kind of expand a little bit more on how you kind of go about taking those PPC top converting terms and volume, volume terms. And in some respects, do you prioritize conversion over the volume of a PPC term when you think about obviously then doing the keyword research on the SEO side of things? I mean, I've got my view on it, but the floor is yours, Matt, and I'd love to get your view on it.
Yeah, so if I understand the question, you'd like to know like how I'm using the conversion data?
Yeah, exactly that. Is there a way that you would kind of take a load of paid search data and kind of go, right, this is how I'll use it kind of thing, and into, what's my priority in the data that I see to use for SEO?
Yeah, absolutely. So actually, is something that I'd worked on with a colleague a little while ago that we called a keyword scorecard. But basically what we were doing is putting every piece of information about, a given keyword in a single Excel file, right? So first off, like aggregating all the information so we could see it in one place. And then looking at, obviously, search volume is important. And then looking at impressions from the paid search side, just to, again, I guess, validate the search volume a little bit. But I think the most sort of interesting thing to me is this ratio of like, it is almost impressions or search volume to conversions, because like, obviously if it's 100 million searches a month and there's millions of conversions or whatever, so I mean that's a no-brainer. But you may come across something where the platform's telling you it's searched 30 times a month, but you have 8 conversions from it. Like, okay, like that's something we want to dig into right there. 8 with just a couple of searches, that keyword will make you more money than going after some of the big ones that are already dominated by the big box retailers.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more with that. I think that's the key piece, is thinking about not necessarily the biggest volume number is the best one kind of thing. So you got someone that just delivers high-end value of product. I mean, that's one of the things I look at as well, is kind of how much does a product cost? Because you can sell 100 things at $50 or £50, or you can sell 10 things at $500 or £500. It makes a huge difference thinking about the value of an actual item that's being acquired. Well, I mean, we're out of time, guys. This is just kind of flowing by. I think we've had some amazing tips. I wonder if, Matt, could you just knock on one more slide on from Q&A, just to the final summary slide that we should have at the back end of the deck? Would be amazing. I just wanted to say, obviously these things just fly by, and massive thank you for you guys for attending. Really appreciate everybody that always turns out for these. I know it's the middle of the summer. It's sunny outside for once in the UK. I'm sure where Matt is, it's sunny all the time kind of thing in Phoenix. Matt's probably sick of the sight of the sun, but for the people in the UK, it's been a really nice day, and it's summertime and all that sort of thing. So I really appreciate you guys attending. Obviously, a massive thank you to Matt Lawyer for jumping on board from InServe Interactive. As I say, mate, I know you've got to go and catch a plane straight after this, so we really do appreciate you taking the time and coming and joining this Deep Crawl webinar. So a big thank you to you, Matt.
Yeah, it's my honor. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you, sir. Obviously, feel free to reach out to us at Deep Crawl if you guys want to get a free consultation, a demo of the technology that we have. Say, Matt's a big fan. I'm obviously a big fan of the product, and I've used it for many years as well. And remember to download one of our free ebooks. We've got some really useful information. You can see them here on the screen in front of you now. So do go in there and grab one of those ebooks. And as I mentioned before, there will be a full write-up available of everything we've talked about today, with the slides and obviously the audio recording, so you guys can go and delve back in there. As we kept quoting, it's 93 days to Black Friday in the US, which is a massive retail event. The knock-on effect is obviously Christmas is coming fast, and we do have our own Black Friday events, obviously, in the UK and Europe these days as well. Jump on this and start thinking about it if you're working for a retail brand. It really, really is something that you need to think about. Obviously, please do fill in that information survey for us and just let us know how we're doing. Could we be better? Could we, change things up? Let us know, please. Our next webinar is on the 16th of September on how to build an all-star SEO team in partnership with Shopify, obviously another e-commerce platform on top of the ones that we've mentioned today. So tune in for that, get signed up. The emails will be coming out very, very shortly. Finally, my name is John Myers, and I've had obviously the pleasure of hosting you guys again. I look forward to hosting you again very, very soon, and thank you for listening. That was Deep Crawl's webinar on how to boost your SEO and your revenue in the holiday season. Thank you guys, and signing off. Goodbye.